It's Dot again, and I am finishing up the second part of my tutorial on multi-layer stickers, specifically to create logos. And so, as you can see, the 4 different layers of the Nuggets logo are now in Silhouette Studio, and I just opened up my file. Um, just fair warning, if you're running this program on a Mac, Silhouette Studio will not open SVG files, so you'll have to save your Inkscape file as a PNG and then open it up in Silhouette Studio. If you're working on one of the lab computers or if you have a Windows machine, it should be totally fine. Okay, so I have my layers, and now I need to tell the Silhouette paper cutter what outlines to cut. And to do that, I'm going to go up here to this little mat icon. It says open the trace window, and I'm going to select trace area, and I just click and I hold down and I drag a box around everything that I want cut out. And you can see it starts becoming highlighted in yellow. I want everything highlighted in yellow. So I can either uncheck, oh no, I want to check high pass filter, and I just want to drag this all the way up, this value. You can see everything's now colored in yellow. And if I hit trace, you'll now see that everything has a red outline, and where the red outline is where the paper cutter will cut. So honestly, what I can do is now I can just take the background and I can delete this. I don't need this anymore. Yeah, and here's what I'm going to cut. Now I'm recording this at home. I'm not in the lab, so my computer is not hooked up to a Silhouette paper cutter. However, a couple of important things to remember. So first of all, I just clicked on this icon to get into the design page settings. So this is important because you'll need to change this depending on what type of paper cutter you're using. In the lab session you guys were in, you were using a smaller paper cutter. So not the Cameo, you're using the Portrait, which has a sticky mat the size of 8 by 12 inches. I normally use the larger cutters, the Cameos, in the front of the lab. That has a 12 by 12 inch cutting mat. And so you need to specify, though, what kind of cutting mat you're using. Remember, too, that this arrow designates the top of the cutting mat, and the arrow is the direction that the cutting mat will feed into the cutter, so it'll move into the cutter this way. I can rotate my view too, so now if the arrow's here, the paper cutter would be over here and the mat would move in and out, but I like it to face upward because that makes more sense to me. So another important thing is to go into cut settings. So you can see that our cut outlines are very brightly highlighted in red, which is really good. An important thing to check is your material type. So you guys will be using vinyl for your stickers, and what's really nice in Silhouette Studio is it gives you options, so a kind of advice on kind of what blade size to use. So here it tells you just need a blade size of 1. You're just going to be cutting the top surface of vinyl, and that doesn't take too much knife. If you're cutting through, kind of thick cardstock, you might want to go up to, like a 5 or something, but we're going to keep it at 1. This is sometimes confusing to people. This is not changing the cutting settings in your cutter. you have to do that manually. This is just the software recommending to you, okay, I recommend that you go and manually change the knife to a setting of 1. So that's what some people get confused by, but just remember that. Additionally, I always recommend that people do a test cut before they cut their entire logo out because it might not cut properly. That's important to know. Since I'm not hooked into a cutter right now, this is not accessible to me, but I would print test cut, and it would actually just cut out a tiny little square in the top left corner with a tiny little triangle in it. And you should be able to peel both of those off fairly easily without the cutter actually cutting into the mat. That's bad. So that's it for explaining Silhouette Studio. If everything went according to plan, then you would just hit this button, send to Silhouette, and the Silhouette would go. I plan on making another video about actually using the machine, as well as how to use transfer paper to start stacking up the layers of your multi-layer sticker. All right.